Welcome back to the Cello Brain channel. If you have not clicked this already, then go ahead and click the follow button if you're watching on the podcast or the subscribe button on YouTube. Every single follow makes a massive difference in reaching more people with this information. And it's information that I'm incredibly passionate about. I want it to be reach so many more people. So go ahead and click that button and we'll be on our way. Today we are talking about a cello piece that you've probably heard. It's one of the most famous pieces ever written for the cello. And in fact, if you just type in the words, "that famous cello song," it's going to pop up. It's the very first thing that pops up. So I think that you can probably guess what it is. It's called the Bach Prelude in G. This piece is actually the #1 most requested song to learn for adult students. They join Inner Voice Academy and I asked them the question in their onboarding, what are some of your dream pieces to play? If you could play anything at all. And I'd say about 90% of them say the Bach Prelude in G. And some of them, they may not even know what it sounds like, but they know that that's the piece that really speaks to them. I've always thought of the Bach cello suites as the book of Psalms for music. It really touches on every human emotion, just like that book does, the book of Psalms. And there's actually a way that you can experience the playing of this piece yourself as a beginner cellist. You don't need to be playing the cello for years and years and years before learning this song. After going through the Simply Sound course, which is the very first one in Inner Voice Academy, during your first few months, you learn the basic skills and techniques needed to learn this piece. In today's video, you're actually going to get a sneak peek into our Topic of the Month class that happened on April 2nd, 2024. The very first week of every month, we have a Topic of the Month. And for this month, the date of the recording, we actually went through the step-by-step of learning this Bach Prelude. So wait till the end because I will be revealing exactly what your next step is in order to reach the techniques in order to learn this piece. So stay tuned, listen to the end, and let's dive into the class. This is a very, very exciting class because it's a piece that's very close to my heart. We are going to be going through the Bach Prelude in G. And this piece is actually one of the pieces that almost every single student that comes into Inner Voice Academy tells me that they want to play. So this recording will be saved onto the video lesson library and you can review it as much as you like. And I'm sure that any new students coming in and watching the recording of this, you will be very excited about what we're going to learn because we're going to go through the exact steps, one by one, that you need to get to a place where you can play this piece with freedom. And it is absolutely gorgeous. So we're also going to go through the harmonies, the structure. Erin actually posted a fascinating video about this piece in our Slack channel. So we'll watch that today as part of the class because Alyssa Weiler-Stein, the cellist in that video, she has incredible insights on the structure of this piece. So that is a little bit about the outline for today. So since it's our topic-based class today, I'll head on to our slides. Okay. So we're going to talk about the history first, and then we're going to go through the structure and the harmonies, and then finally the exact steps to learn the piece. I'll go through techniques, scales, exercises, all of those fun things at the end. So first we have to climb into our time machine and travel back a little bit over 300 years ago. So imagine this, it's the year 1719. Bach is sitting down to write the Prelude in G. He is so absorbed in the notes, in the structure. It's about 4:30 in the morning. He was an early bird. He loved going and sitting and composing by himself early in the morning. He had 20 children. So you can imagine that those early morning hours were sacred to him. He loses track of time. He goes into that flow state, composing this beautiful piece. And he doesn't even hear his wife, Maria Barbara, enter the room a couple of hours later. She sits down at a stool next to him and looks at the freshly written manuscript. She was a musician herself, so as she was listening to the music in her head, following along the lines, she found, this is like a story. I want to hear the next chapter. And she tells him, Johann, I think that this is some of your finest work. As he gazed into her eyes, he is so excited to come back to composing because he gets to compose this piece for not only her, but for his children. This is a photo of his wife, Maria Barbara. Unfortunately, when he was traveling, about a year later, he comes home and finds that his beloved wife, Maria Barbara, has passed away. She died an untimely death at only age 35. And you can imagine the grief that he went through as he found this news. He couldn't even say goodbye. His trip was 3 months long. He was traveling with the prince. His name was Karla Very from the Czech Republic, his employer at the time. And he came home and she was buried. It was unimaginably sad, and the grief that he felt, he described this as the worst event of his life. And this was right in the middle of composing this Bach prelude. So when you hear the piece in a few minutes, when I play it for you, you'll find that there's parts in the piece that's incredibly joyful. It speaks to your heart and you're extremely happy as you're listening to it. However, there's parts of the piece that are incredibly sad. The piece goes through all the different human emotions. I always think of the Bach suites as sort of the Book of Psalms in comparison to the Bible. Like if you were to take sets of pieces and compare it to the Bible, that's what it would be, because it goes through the entire realm of what we experience as humans, all of the human emotions. Bach, however, put on top of every composition, Soli Deo Gloria. And this means to the glory of God alone. He was a devout Christian, had a very deep faith, and his joy and the hope that persists throughout this piece is so evident that he found comfort in God throughout the turmoil of this story. 3 years later, he married Anna Magdalena. And you can actually see in the progression of how the Bach suites are composed in the suite number 3 in C major, it's one of the most joyful pieces he ever composed. So he found hope and peace in all of the turmoil. In addition to that, actually 11 of his 20 children passed away, either as young babies or 2 3-year-old. One of them passed away as a teenager due to the severe poverty and lack of health care and just knowledge in that time. So even though he had 11 out of 20 children pass away and his first wife, he still found joy. The other thing that was incredibly fascinating to me as I was rereading some of my music history textbooks from my studies is how his pieces were actually completely forgotten after his death. People completely thought, they really thought that his music was old-fashioned, that he was not part of the current music, and it was then rediscovered in stages. So, have you ever heard of Mendelssohn? Raise your hand if you have. Yes. So Mendelssohn, he rediscovered his music in 1829. So this was now about 75 years after Bach died. So Bach had died being completely unknown. And now, 300 years later, he's considered one of the most prolific and famous composers, one of the most loved composers of all time. So that also spoke to his testament of letting the work, his life's work on him, instead of focusing on becoming famous and having his speak for him. Instead, he lived his life letting his work on him and become the person that he was meant to be. His dedication and his consistency in his composing habits is something that we can really learn from. We as adult cello learners, we really need to focus on the process, on just that consistent habit. And you can actually see that consistency in his music. In this piece, there's very consistent sets of patterns, of rhythms, like the rhythm is all the same. And you can think of that as the days of practice passing by, creating and culminating into a beautiful journey of learning the cello. So that is one of the things that we can learn from Bach. And actually, Pablo Casals, he's one of the most famous cellists, was the one who then discovered the Bach suites. So Mendelssohn discovered some of the larger orchestral works. It was in 1890, teenager Pablo Casals found this music at a second-hand store and spent 13 years learning it before it was actually performed in public for the first time. So if we do the math, this is now 200 years after the piece was written that it was actually performed. And here's what he says in his biography, Pablo Casals. For the past 80 years, I have started each day in the same manner. It is not a mechanical routine, but something essential to my daily life. I go to the piano, I play 2 preludes and fugues of Bach. He was a pianist and a cellist. I cannot think of doing otherwise. It's sort of a benediction on the house. But that is not its only meaning for me. It is a rediscovery of the world of which I have the joy of being a part of. It fills me with awareness of the wonder of life, with a feeling of the incredible marvel of being a human being. The music is never the same for me, never, even though I play the same pieces every day. Each day it is something new, fantastic, and unbelievable. That is Bach, like nature, a miracle. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to play the piece for you. And what I want you to think about is what stands out to you. What about the piece is impactful for you? What do you notice my left hand doing, right hand doing? You can think about the technical elements, but I mostly just want you to focus on the music. And I'm actually going to screen share the music as I'm playing so that you can follow along if you'd like. But you're also welcome to just put it on speaker view or enlarge me if you'd like to watch my hands as I play. So here is the music, and you'll see it has lots of extra little markings on it. We're going to go through what some of these markings mean. It's just 2 pages long, which is crazy for how much beauty Bach inserted into those 2 pages. So I'll quickly grab my cello here. So most of the time when you learn a new piece, I'll just move my mic here for a second. Apologize for any background noise there. Whenever you learn a new piece, it's important to listen to it. And this is most of the time. Now, if you're going to learn something that you've never heard before and the purpose of it is to figure out the notes yourself, then I would discourage you from listening to it first, because then you can figure it out based on the knowledge that you have about music. So there's definitely 2 approaches to learning music. You can either listen to it or not. But I would recommend for a piece like this to kind of have an idea of what it sounds like before starting. And that is why I'm going to play it for you right now. So I'll just show the first page, and then once I get to letter G, I'll scroll. You're welcome to close your eyes and just listen or follow along or look at my left hand, right hand, what I'm doing. And then from letter G. Okay, you just learned about the fascinating history of this incredibly beautiful piece, and we just finished with a full recording, essentially, of the piece so that you could hear it in its entirety and feel all of the beautiful emotions in that piece. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, I am so curious. What are those step-by-steps that Ine taught the students that day? And never fear, the recording was saved in the Inner Voice Academy portal. Now, there's a very small chance that I'll make this a free resource or a mini course later on. But for now, if you'd like to access that, then sign up for the waitlist for Inner Voice Academy. It's going to be opening up its doors in just a few weeks. In the meantime, that is your next step. So head to the link in the description. You'll see a link there for the waitlist, and I cannot wait to see your name on there. I just know that this piece is something that will bring your days alive. That's what it's done for so many other students in Inner Voice Academy. And the joy that I see on their faces when they play this piece for the first time is like nothing else. It's indescribable. And you can learn it too. So that is your next step. Sign up for the waitlist, and then I will be in touch with you about all of the information you need in order to enroll. By being on the waitlist, you get access to special bonuses, special trainings, and extra next steps so that you know exactly what to do if you'd like to learn the cello. Okay, until next time, have a wonderful, incredible, amazing day.